Good day, everyone. I am Matt Harrison, and you are listening to the Geary Cast, the Malaga fan podcast on Sport Direct Radio and as part of the Sports Social Podcast Network. Malaga were back with a bang this weekend. After weeks of stale football, Malaga dismantled Antequera 3-0 at La Rosaleda on a lovely Saturday evening on the Costa del Sol. We'll discuss all the goals, the performances, and, like a lot of the local discourse, Kevin's showboating. And speaking of showboating, here is a guy who I definitely consider a flash bastard. It's my Geary Cat host, Nick Bell. How are you, Nick Bell?
I'm very good, Matt. I am definitely feeling like a flash bastard. And I'm also stood on a ball right now. You can't see it, but I'm actually showboating in the show. And stood on top of a nice Total 90 football. So, yeah, how are you?
I'm very good. As a footballer, I know we don't have Luke Chambers here, who's obviously the guy that probably played football to the highest level out of all of us. Do you have a particular footballing skill you think that's the one I had nailed down?
Skill would be a stretch of a word. But especially in amongst my group of friends and people I play football with, the good old Nick Bell back heel has around a 42% success rate. Doesn't always come off. I remember once when I was playing five-a-side, and you know me, Matt, I'm not the lightest of gentlemen. I'm not very pacey. I'm not Kevin-esque. But I remember once at five-a-side, I've just managed to nutmeg somebody, move round them at pace, and just buried it into the bottom corner. It might have been the greatest day of my life. So, yeah, I've never stood on a ball because I respect my opposition.
Yeah, more on that to come. Weirdly, and this isn't a brag, I was always really, really good at overhead kicks. Weirdly, even at indoor football, I was quite good at them.
Takes a level of bravery, that.
Pardon?
Takes a level of bravery out.
Well, to be honest with you, to this day, I've got a pretty dodgy shoulder, which crops up sometimes when I'm running, and I'm fairly sure it comes from an overhead kick in Abercynon Sports Centre, but I scored, so it was all good.
Handy penalty taker as well, aren't you? That's what I remember. I remember seeing a video from you had a pen at Atherton Collieries.
No. It was 4 Atherton Collieries at a ground. What was the name of the ground? It was on Anglesey, basically. Anyway, I can't remember the name of the ground, but it's literally as you cross into Anglesey. Yeah, that was a good pen. I was always quite good at pen. Awful finisher unless the ball was in the air, because I was good header, good penalty taker, but really awful if it was just a standard finish. But fortunately, Malaga had plenty of good finishers this week, and we shall talk about them shortly. So let's have like a quick update of where we are in regards of the league table and playoffs and all the other bits of where we're going. So Malaga are now, well, they're still 4th, as we have been for a few weeks now, but we are 1 point behind Ibiza because Ibiza drew 1-1 with Cordoba. Ibiza were down to 10 men for most of the game, so fair play to them for holding on. Obviously, Cordoba are one of the informed teams in the league, if not their informed team, I'm guessing. The other switch for us in regard to playoffs is we've said for a couple of weeks now we are due to play Tarragona. That is now switched a little bit. Well, it switched to Barcelona B, or Barcelona Athletic, as they're called. And it could switch again, obviously, next week. We could play Tarragona, Barcelona Athletic, Ponferradina, or Celta Vigo's B team. Nick, do you care who we get still, or?
Yeah, very much so. I think now that the majority of things have been confirmed, especially from the Grupo Dos section, you've got to look at, like, say, who you're going to be playing against. And the graphic which Primera put out, and it shows, in our side at the minute we'd have Barça Bay, Ponferradina, Cordoba. You're like, I don't want to be in that half of it. And I'm not saying that the other half is much easier, because you've still got, Ceuta in there and Tarragona, but it just looks maybe more like an easier group, if that makes sense. So I think the onus is there for us to, as I said last week, avoid Cordoba at all costs.
I think they're the ones. I agree. They're the ones to avoid, I think. Equally, from a sort of travel perspective, it'd be nice to have a weekend in Barcelona, but I've seen our friends, well, not even, our fellow Giricast colleagues, such as Luke Chambers, saying they want to go to Tarragona or Barcelona and avoid Vigo. There's a part of me in regards of travel, and to go a little bit Rincón de Cultural, that Vigo is one of the most underrated cities in Spain, I think. And so I wouldn't mind a trip to Vigo if I could get up there. And I don't know, Nick, do you know why we have a sort of rivalry with Vigo as a city rather than a football rivalry?
Oh, I would have absolutely no idea. That you're going to have to Rincón Cultural me this.
This is absolutely great, Rincón Cultural. Now I think so. Vigo, for those that don't know, their mayor is obsessed with Christmas. So he tries to make Vigo this like ultimate sort of Christmas epicenter of Spain. And I've been to Vigo the start of December, and they do a good job, but he really hates the Christmas lights in Malaga, because he feels that Malaga is being seen as this sort of Christmas capital of Spain, and he hates that Malaga have this reputation for having the best Christmas lights. So it's a Christmas light derby if we go to Vigo.
The Malaga ones are pretty spectacular. Whatever they do with these, Cal Larios, isn't it? It's just always incredible. So I can see why he would be envious of our glistening lights. And as a man who is well versed, obviously, in illumination, I would say Malaga's definitely up there.
Yeah. Well, I think, I've not been to many other Christmas lights in Spain. Actually, they're probably the two cities I've been to Christmas light wise. I've been to Oviedo. Oviedo was quite good as well. But no, apparently he does not like our lights. So, if we get Celta Vigo B, it might kick off.
All to play for as well now. Obviously, with Cadiz being confirmed as relegated, it's kind of back on for them. So, all to go for.
They're all interesting options in different ways, because, and again, from a travel perspective, Ponferrada is a brilliant city. I was lucky to spend a day there when I did the Camino, but we'll see. We need to hopefully keep winning as we have this week. Talking about B teams, obviously we mentioned we could get a B team in the playoffs. Let's talk about our very own B team, Atletico Malagueño. They're in the playoffs of the Tercera División. Sadly, lost 3-1 this weekend to Almeria's B team, which I think has come as a bit of surprise, because Atletico Malagueño have had a good season, and our boy Luke Chambers has sent us the team sheet of Atletico Malagueño, and there's fair to say, there's it's a good starting 11 we put out, and we lost 3-1. Obviously, there's a second leg to come. I don't know. Do you have any thoughts on it, Nick?
I think the only thought I would have is, if you're going to lose these players, I'd rather lose earlier on than later on, because obviously there's about 10 rounds in this playoff campaign, because it's just a ridiculous myriad of football down there when it comes to the end of the season. But it was surprising. Like you say, we were sort of praising on the preview show, you know, how much we'd like to see Antonito come into the side against Antequera, you know, how well, you know, Marino's playing, Aaron Ochoa, Maloney, obviously, and these guys were all playing this game who have had, you know, plenty of first team experience this season. So it seems strange that, and I won't profess to know anything about Almeria B, but you know, you
on your research.
I have got absolutely no idea. If you was to ask me about Almeria, I'd only know about Pepe Mel, but and the fact they play at the Horsepower Stadium or something like that potentially. I think it's called. But yeah, but all to play for. Obviously, they've still got the second leg. You'd like to think maybe they can turn it around, but it's a big ask. But as I mentioned before, this level, when you got to the playoff final last year against, I think it was Jaén, was it?
Yeah.
You know, the fact that they'd gone through so many rounds, done so many miles traveling just to be put out at the last hurdle, I'd probably rather go out now than then. So, but hopefully they can turn it around.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, it's like you said, it's another good experience for. Especially like the three players you named in particular, three players that have been in and around the first team all season. I've said as well, like, I think Santa Aya played, who again I saw play in Baracaldo, and I really like him.
Angorrecio.
Yeah, it's and you know, it's you know, it's our B team at the end of the day. I don't think it's anything to cry over if they don't get there, but yeah, it's good for them to be playing these clubs. Like I said, the high end one last year was probably the big challenge, because high end are like a pretty big football club in regards of like the lower echelons of Spanish football, and to go toe to toe. But yeah, it's a bit disappointing against Almeria B. But then, like you said, I don't know much about them. And you go, oh yeah, but Almeria are a top flight team as well, officially as it stands
right now.
yeah, obviously they're going down, but yeah. So there you go. We've got some young prospects there. Let's talk about some old people, Nick. We talked
about my hands for this.
Pardon?
I rub my hands for this.
Yeah. To be honest with you, I think I said on the podcast, or maybe I didn't even say on the podcast. Maybe I just put it in our WhatsApp group. So obviously, we have the Malaga Legends game coming up this Friday. I'm going to be on a train going to Madrid pretty much when it kicks off, actually. And I was a bit like, oh, okay, there's a lot of players I'd like to see play for that Malaga's Legends team. I'm going to miss them. I'm not going to lose sleep over it. And then today they've announced the sort of, I don't know, the all-star Spanish 11 with a Bulgarian amongst there. Do you want to just say some footballers' names who are going to be in that 11?
I was reading it earlier and I was kind of regaling it to the WhatsApp group, just going, oh my God, have you seen this one? And as soon as I saw one name, you saw another. So you had, you know, your Diego Tristan was the first one that jumped at me. I was like, oh, you know, proper fanboying. And then there was Capdevila, you know, Carlos Comeni, which I think Carlos Comeni maybe might be a bit upset that he's not on the Malaga Legends team.
Yeah, that's a strange one. That's the odd one. That's, yeah, for me, but whatever. I suppose, what do you do? A half of Willy Caballero, a half of Carlos Comeni. And I've noticed, like, you know, their team has 3 goalies. Like, you know, I'm sure like none of, you know, one of those goalies isn't coming just to sit on the bench.
No, but one name really did catch my eye on that, and it is the one man that we all have mutual respect for on this podcast, and that is Chico Flores, ex-Swansea City man. The man who stares in the face of Sam Allardyce and says, okay. I have this little thought in my mind that Big Sam's going to be coming up from Marbella and he's going to be in the stand with his hand on his hips, just laughing at the side of the pitch.
Yeah, I think I said I went to watch Slovakia legends against Spain legends. There's a few crossovers here. I'm pretty sure Capdevio played in that game, and I think Carlos Marchena did. But yeah, like as a, you know, for those that don't know, I'm a Swansea City fan. Chico Flores is like adored by Swansea fans. He got it. He was so like, well, you know, that's what got him booted out of the club in the end. That we had a Gary Monk. Just didn't think he was sensible enough, but we loved his madness and his shithousery, and he was brilliant as well. He was a brilliant footballer. We had him and Ashley Williams at centre back, and very different defenders, but they got each other perfectly. And so yeah, he's the one I'm now gutted I'm not going to be able to see. You mentioned, I think, in our WhatsApp group as well, that the only non-Spanish player I think is Martin Petrov. I've always really liked Martin Petrov. What a left foot!
Yeah, he was always when he was with Man City as well. Obviously, sort of in the
Sven Man City.
Yeah, it was a Thaksin Shinawatra era, but kind of like crossed over briefly into the Rubinho side of things. And it's just like, I just remember him being a fun player. And he always used to wear those Nike Mercurial Vapors with the white and red ones. I just thought, he is fucking cool, him. One of my two favourite Petrovs. So I always got respect for Stilian as well.
Yeah, Stilian's cool. I don't know if you remember this story as well. Martin Petrov, when he retired, like played Sunday League for a team in Didsbury in Manchester for like a season, which was cool.
I was going to say to you, he was at City more towards the back end of his career, and I was racking my brains trying to think where he was at in Spain. Because obviously this team is built as a Spanish legend side. And was it Atletico Madrid he was at?
Yeah, to be honest with you, he was at Atletico Madrid. I know he was there. I can't tell you much about how he did there. Like, I know him from Manchester City. Like you said, that Thaksin Shinawatra, Sven era, and he was just fun. Like he was all left. Always, he looked really, really old, which is you don't get that so much anymore. It's a fun.
I don't look Soviet, but he looked Soviet.
And actually, the other two players I want to give a shout for here, and I think again you might have mentioned one of them in our WhatsApp, is Diego Capel, who I thought was always quite fun. But I went through a bit of a phase on Championship, or maybe Football Manager by then, of trying to get second division Spanish clubs promoted. And I noticed they've got Rodolfo Bodipo up front, who I had at Racing Santander, and he was my striker. So to be honest with you, it's a name I hadn't even thought about in about 15 years. When I saw his name, I was like, oh, I remember him.
Like meeting an old friend.
As happens with names on Championship Manager, Football Manager, whichever era you are from.
I really hope this game is like available on YouTube or something like that to watch, because it would be. I don't even care if they announce it at like 6 o'clock on Friday.
They have to be, surely, because even like I said, I'll be on a train to Madrid. I'd probably watch it on the train.
I'm desperate to watch it. I just think, not forgetting obviously all the Malaga legends that we've got playing, and I think we've mentioned before how impressed we were with the roster that we've got. Thinking, I never thought it'd be anything like this. This is a proper legends match, and I've seen a podcast that's come out this week, and I can't remember who hosts it, but it's a proper noughties nostalgia football podcast, and this feels very much like that. Like you say, whenever would you think about Martin Petrov? Yeah, he's going to be at La Rosaleda on Friday. I
can tell you, Nick, I'm guessing you're thinking about the follow-up to Quickly Kevin, which is going to be Let's Be Avenue. Which
I think that's the one. Yeah.
It's all about 2000s, hence the title.
And
just some final bit of news to finish on. I don't really have much to say about it, to be honest with you. I don't know if you do, but I know you guys on the preview show, I think you mentioned, or we certainly did on our Twitter, that the new hymno was going to be released this week by El Ganka. It was released Friday. Algo what's it called? Algo inexplicable. I hope I've got the title right.
Yeah,
That.
unexplainable thing it's called, isn't it?
Yes. I'll just throw mine out there, my views out there now. I don't think it's very good.
Well, I took the
for me.
Yeah, the two notes I've made here about it are, one, there's kind of an element of where there's like a ooh in it, like a ooh,
Right.
and it feels very Viking thunderclap, which if that gets people going, maybe at the start of the game that could be a thing. But then I took the liberty of trying to translate it into English because obviously, as you know, Matt, I speak very, very basic Spanish, and some of the lyrics, I don't know if translates had a seizure somewhere, but there is, for example, and with a broken throat we have come to win, but we are going to celebrate until defeat. Is that correct? I don't know. I'll let you.
Yeah, there's something like that. I looked at the lyrics and sort of tried to work it out in my Spanish, and yeah, like again, maybe I'm not the right person to critique it because the nuances of language and things like that.
Yeah.
But it just didn't feel really football-y to me. Like not so much like the lyrics, because when you, like you said, you look at the lyrics, it is very, Malaga's in our heart, sort of, chest pumping stuff. But I don't think
I very much like the ball is in the air. We will return tomorrow to explain the inexplicable and let my sister finish it. I was like, what?
Yeah, which again, obviously translation like loses things there, but it just didn't feel like something people are going to sing in the stands. Which
no, I think when you've got something that is so brilliant already, it was always going to be difficult to try and get near it. And I'm not saying that Malaga's got the best hymno in the world, but I tell you what, it's something that gets you off the seat, and it's a very vocal chorus.
Underrated, to be honest with you. And obviously, I'm biased, but I see all these articles, and obviously, I follow quite a lot of people that do stuff on Spanish football, and I've come across these articles of the best hymno in Spain, and it's usually Seville. Seville's the one that usually comes up the most. Or I was getting it wrong. Is it Seville or Betis? It's one of them, anyway. But I think it was just great. I think it was just cool. It's, it follows the sort of the rules of hymno. It's not, it's not craft work.
Do you know what this does feel like? It feels like a Eurovision entry.
But does it? I don't know if it does, because I think I can't use you to put in the WhatsApp group. I feel like it doesn't.
I would definitely have this as a Eurovision entry, because it's like, it's not just the fact it's the one man singing, it's kind of got that female backup singer to it as well, which is not very hymno, but then also Viking thunderclap. So it feels like a bit of a mixed bag of stuff, and I like the sentiment of it, but I wouldn't be replacing what we've got.
I do like the algo inexplicable. That's quite a fun sort of message.
Yeah. Endurance as the flag. Today I caught my father crying in La Rosaleda.
Yeah, that's fun. I like that one. Yeah, maybe it's a grower. We shall see. Well, let's go, because obviously let's go to our 3-0 win against Antequera, where we sung the usual hymno pre-match. Tell you what, just it's worth mentioning already, it generally was really, really good to go to a 7 o'clock kickoff after all these midday games. I've not despised the midday games on a Sunday, but it was nice to have a bit of an afternoon to go, right, we're going to a Malaga game. And I'd like to see our sort of form chart with the midday kickoffs, because obviously we won, I think, the first 3 in a row, and then it fell away a bit, but it was nice. And again, it was like a really nice evening in Malaga. It was sort of in the high 20s, and yeah, the only thing that wasn't perfect was my bloody season ticket didn't work at the turnstile, and they wouldn't let me in. That was a bit of a slog, where I had to go to the ticket office very quickly and say they're not letting me in. So I missed the first 2 minutes of the game. But
did you not say, "Do you not know who I am"?
I pretty much did, to be honest. I did not understand why it wasn't working. They were like, I tried every single turnstile or little ticket thing. They said, and to be fair, because it was only 20,000 this time, I did just go to the ticket office and there's no queuing. And I was like, they're not letting me in. And they took my digital ticket off me and printed me out a ticket. So I'm gonna have to address that before the playoffs, because I was very frustrated.
Yeah, definitely. Well, they're gonna have to update them all anyway, aren't they, for the playoffs, for the extra tickets? So hopefully that sorts itself out for you. You should have said to them on the turnstile, said, I went to Baracaldo.
Pretty much what I was doing, really, with my hand gestures. Yeah, my hand gestures translated to that, basically. Nick, you're the best person to have on the podcast to ask this question. Before we talk about the football, any thoughts on Antequera's shirt?
Well, I really liked the home one. I thought they got their Hummel kit pretty much spot on, and I really like this away shirt as well, and especially with I assume a subtle nod to there's a team in South Wales who play in a kit like this. So they've got an away shirt.
I was going to link back to this.
It's quite a nice nod to Merthyr Town there, isn't it?
Well, last year, wasn't it? But yes, for those that don't know, I think I said to a friend of the podcast, Keith Bell, this looks a lot like Shakhtar Donetsk, and then he said, "Oh, it does a bit." And then I bored him for about 5 minutes, telling him the history of Merthyr, my hometown Merthyr, and their connection with Donetsk and the mining industry, which I know you know about because you were on a Platini Played for podcast about orange / amber / tangerine football clubs. So yeah.
But in answer to the original question, it was a really nice kit, to be fair, and
which I knew nothing about. It did not feel like an Antequera shirt to me. So I was quite.
Yeah, I don't see the connection to why they would be that colour or that style, but I kind of like that sometimes when I know we have a connection to, for example, the shirt you're wearing now. You've got the Malaga City colours. Last year we had the roses for La Rosaleda, but sometimes it's just great when a football team just goes, "Fuck it, pass me the template book and I'll pick something mental." And I imagine that's exactly what Antequera have done there. They've gone, well, we've got our home kit, which looks great, but we've got to stick with the green and white. So let's just go crazy for our away shirt and something that's memorable and noticeable. And it was stunning, to be fair.
Yeah, I really liked it. Just again, I think I might have said to Keith at the game, and he probably ignored me. But in regards of football book recommendations, I cannot recommend highly enough We Play On, which is the book about the modern history of Shakhtar Donetsk. It's brilliant. It's written by Andy Brassel, who is, I'm sure anyone that listens to football podcasts will know that name. It is one of the best football books I've read in the last year. It's really, really good. It has nothing to do with Antequera.
but no, brilliant. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah. Let's talk about Malaga Club de Football. There were changes to the starting 11, as I suppose we expected after a pretty shit performance at San Fernando. Puga was back in. Molina and Gennaro were back in the middle. Obviously, Gennaro didn't start the game in San Fernando. And we were back to, I've written down here, Einar and Monte as the back two, but I know that's wrong, so I don't know why I've written that down. Let's talk about Carlos Puga. That was good to see him back, wasn't it?
It was, and I know in the preview show we spoke about, we can't judge Joaquin on his one performance against San Fernando, but it was pretty bad. We'd say he's had a fairly solid season, but having Carlos Puga in here again, excelling, showing why he could be making that shirt his own. And I tell you what, as far as problems to have, considering the trouble that we've had at right back over the years, it's kind of refreshing to be in a situation where we've got two really good right backs.
Yeah, but it's at the moment it's all about Puga for me. Like as you know, I am a signed up member of the Joaquin Gabilondo fan club, literally. But there's no chance he can get back into he shouldn't be starting games ahead of Puga after the last two home performances from Puga and Joaquin's performance in San Fernando. He should not be. Sadly, I want him to get his place back, but I thought Puga was excellent here. And what did he think about getting Genaro back in the middle? Because obviously we talked about on the last podcast that when we played San Fernando, we were open, we'll say.
Yeah, he was very much missed against San Fernando. And I think as much as we can be critical of Genaro from time to time, we're a better side with him in the starting 11 than we are without him. And that's just the way it goes. I was looking at this start 11, to be fair, and dare I say, if you was to write down on paper at the start of the season, knowing all these players that we've got here, obviously Puga and a few others weren't here, but this wouldn't be far off your strongest Malaga starting 11. Maybe, dare I say at the start of the season, we put Juan de over Einar, for example. Larrubia would definitely be in there at the start of the season. We were very much excited to see what he would do. So, I think if this is the team that takes us into the playoffs, obviously on the back of the result we've just seen, I'm a lot more confident now than I was a week ago.
Yeah, and I think this team started really well as well. It's not to say, we absolutely decimated Antequera in that sort of first half hour or so. But again, watching from the stands, the feeling I got pretty much straight away was we felt, I don't know, like quite loose and like it just didn't look like lethargic like we had in other weeks. It looked like quite fun. Like it was sort of just we seemed to be quite fast paced, and we were open a little bit as well. But I don't know, what did you make of the sort of opening exchanges?
No, I really agree. We seem to not be as rigid as we once were. And the football was a lot better. Something we've been calling out for weeks now, just to have. I'm not saying this is the identity, but it kind of felt like there was an identity about how we played football, and whether that was, Genaro winning back the ball and just laying it off to Molina to pick a pass, or whether it was Larrubia cutting inside like, we've been wanting to do all season. Even Roberto, in this match, we know how industrious he is, and we know how well he can play, but he was very much of the mindset, I'm going to sit in between the left centre-back and the left-back and just wait for the gap. And he was kind of playing on the shoulder of his last man, which is not something we've seen much from the last few weeks. So very positive, and it was a pleasure to watch. We've had games like this and we've got 10, 15, 20 minutes in and we've been going, fucking hell, this is a struggle. This is hard to watch. It's hard to report on. And this was something completely different.
Yeah, and also like you said, we were sort of in their faces, and like you said, not as rigid, but also we were really quite patient as well. I didn't think we lost our head, and it was like, oh, come on, if we just keep doing this, it's coming. And obviously, eventually that came through Roberto's goal in the 33rd minute. He's obviously not scored as many recently, but it was a proper, I don't know, like as far as one-on-one finishes go, really good. Great little assist from David Ferrero. Good goal, Nick.
Yeah, excellent. The one thing I will say in respect to Antequera is they gave us a lot of space, and I don't know if that's because they were playing a high line or whether they were just like literally playing with acres of gap between the back four, but it made it easier for, like you say, for us to pick that pass, to thread a ball through to Roberto, and then once he'd had his got into his stride and it was one-on-one with the goalkeeper, you'd put your house on him scoring from there. I did wince a little bit because I thought you've got that whole net to aim for, Roberto, and you've hit it within 4 inches of the goalkeeper's head.
He did, yeah.
It's a very cool finish, and you saw the reaction from Roberto as well, the way he did the knee slide into the corner, the subs and other players coming around him. I think he needed it. I think he needed to know what it was like to score a goal like that. because he, like you say, he's not scored as many in this half of the season, and the ones that he has scored haven't been that inspiring. They've been like tap-ins or knockdowns and things like that.
Yeah, he had time to sort of think about this one where you think he might. There's no instinctive finish here. He has to bury it. We should say, because I think we've sort of jokingly made a big thing about Kevin being the ultimate celebrator for Malaga, but like Roberto does a hell of a celebration when he scores. Fair play to him.
Oh, definitely.
His like the way he punches the air when he scores is quite sort of semi-terrifying. It's very Pippo Inzaghi, I always think, with him. And
well, we've had them all this season, haven't we? We've had the knee slide, we've had the good old fist up in the air, and
he does like sort of like sidewinder
side punch. We've had the wings out as well.
Yeah.
So he's definitely got that to his locker, and that's a sign of a good striker in my book.
Yeah, and then let's go straight on to only a few minutes later. David Larrubia got a second goal. Your boy Manu Molina with a nice subtle pass through to him. This goal's great. I think this goal's really underrated. Even in the stadium, I thought it, because he does like two sort of dummy shots and puts the goalie on the floor. And we've talked a lot about we wanted a bit more from David Larrubia, and he's obviously exceptionally talented and maybe has not shown as much. This was brilliant. I thought, like, just to put the goalie on the floor, and then
this will be exceptionally high praise of parallels that shouldn't really be done. But I was watching Man City yesterday.
Oh my god, I've got the exact same thing written down in my notes here.
It just felt like that first Foden goal. When he just gives himself that extra touch where you think you didn't need to do that, but when you did do that, it made it even better. It felt very reminiscent of that, and I was kind of sat there and I was going, he's just done a David Larrubia, and he just, the way he calmly did it, and as you said about this, it isn't a Larrubia we've seen this season. And for this entire game, let's not forget, it just wasn't this one moment. He looked like someone who was playing with a confidence that he's not had before. And I don't know if that's got anything to do with the statement he put out earlier in the week, or whether he was just genuinely, had his tail up in this. But he was excellent. And this finish where, like you say, just takes that extra touch. He just takes that extra yard away from him. And
doesn't touch it. It doesn't touch it. Pretends to touch it. It's yeah, exactly. I'm not so much for the goal, but the same as you, I watched Man City the next day and I was like, oh yeah, this is what David Larrubia looked like yesterday. It's like he sort of glided around the pitch, sort of cutting in from the right. And I don't think we're saying he's as good as Premier League Player of the Season Phil Foden, but there's sort of elements of it there. Yeah, this is, I think, I've been a bit gutted about David Larrubia this year. He's, for me, been biggest disappointment, but certainly in the sort of middle part of the season. But he was exceptional in this game.
There must be something there. There must be something on him that's giving him this block. And I'm not just credit on this one performance. We've seen a brilliant David Larrubia before. We saw the form he was in for Merida last year. So we know there's a player in there, and unlike, I don't want to draw comparisons, but unlike Kevin, who we know has got that raw element of everything, we know he's got a good performance in, but we know he's still
I think it's
more the finished article, but it's just he hasn't been playing up to the level he's capable of at all.
I think he's a much more gifted footballer than Kevin. I think that's fair to say. Like he's a clever, well, he should be a clever footballer. Kevin's a bit rawer, and that's what makes him good for me. But yeah, David Larrubia, yeah, well, like what I like, generally like brilliant goal. This obviously it's a one-on-one, but just for the sort of cockiness of putting the goalie on his arse.
The big thing I would take from this is that if this is a so-called return to form for David Larrubia, this is a great time for him to do it. Because he's still going into this playoff campaign, and he's got, like I say, he's got his head up and he's confident, and he's going to do stuff that no other player at this level is capable of. Then what an asset that is to it. And you know, not speaking too out of terms, but that could be the difference between us falling at the final hurdle in the playoffs or actually getting promoted back to Segunda. So I really think this is the start of something for him.
Well, I hope so. I generally think, I think I've said this a couple of times, so I'm not going to say it's the definitive one. But I think in regards of individual performances, this is one of the best individual performances we've had this season, I think, from any player. And, you know, I don't, you know, when it comes to when we pick our Chumbo and Biznagas and stuff, and, you know, not to sort of jump ahead and spoil it too much, but I always sort of have my own opinion. And then I look at like the local press ones, and, you know, like Malaga and El Desmarque, and I noticed El Desmarque give him 9.5 out of 10, which I don't think they've given anyone this year. I know, which he was brilliant and he was so good. Someone that's won, you know, I don't know if we need to like talk about him too much here, but someone that's probably won more Biznagas than anyone this season. Even Alfonso Herrero still making amazing saves. It was that one to his left, which was perfect again. What a guy. We love him. And yeah, we made a 3-0 1 minute after Sangali coming on the pitch. Pretty much, yeah, I think he scored straight away, didn't he, with a David Larrubia assist, which was actually quite a nice finish when I watched it back this afternoon. It was I thought it was just like a tap in, but he does sort of stick a toe on it, and put it in the corner. I don't.
I would be remiss to say that it's probably the first time this season that I've seen one of the midfield actually make a dart and run into the 18-yard box to get onto a ball like that. I think we've been trying to play this way all year, but we've only had Roberto to aim for. So the fact that he could cut that back into the oncoming path of Sangali, who, you know, again, he'll take massive confidence from this. And it was nice to see how happy he was with the goal.
Yeah, he looked buzzing, actually. I was really happy for him because I like him. I think he's a good player.
But again, he's had it tough this season. You know, he came in and he was you know, really quite good to start with. Obviously picked up an injury, and it's a long way back when you were out for so long. And you know, he's probably taken a bit of a knock at his confidence, but that'll really help him. And again, if you've got these kind of players coming into form, I'm not saying he was the best player on the pitch, but you know, he scored a goal. He's happy. He's leaving La Rosaleda that night feeling very, very content with his performance, and what that does for the next game against Castilla and the playoffs going on then fourth. Then, you know, I'm just praying that this is a return to form. But again, take nothing away from Larrubia as well. You know, the work he had to do to get around the left back, and then also put it onto a plate for Sangali was excellent too. And you know, he does 75% of the job for Sangali, really.
Yeah, it was a really good goal. And obviously that was 3-0, game over. Let's have a bit of fun, Nick, is the sort of the feeling on the pitch. But apparently having a bit of fun when you're 3-0 up is controversial. So let's talk about, which is, I still don't really get how this is such a big talking point, but we've got to talk about it. It's my boy Kevin. Obviously Kevin came on, who I thought actually, by the way, played well when he came on the pitch. But he stood on the football, Nick. He stood on the football. He did this sort of Andre Kanchelskis stand on the football skill, took his man on, seemed to piss off the Antequera players. And to be honest with you, in the stadium, I didn't realize what he'd done, but I knew something I thought he might have said something, because he could just sense straight away that they were pissed off with him. So for those that haven't seen the clip, he runs down the wing and he puts his both feet on the ball, and then crucially he gets past his man and puts a shit cross in. I'll say my bit here. By the way, this is not the view of the Geary cast, because Chris Marquez, he has expressed his opinion, saying he thought Kevin was disrespectful, and the Antequera players have obviously come out and said like they weren't too keen on it either. Sergio Pellicer has even sort of suggested he wasn't big on this, but I'm like, fucking hell, is it really that big a deal? It's like, I want players like Kevin to express themselves. It's a strange way to express himself, but this, if an Antequera defender feels humiliated by this, first of all, I just think, well, you shouldn't be playing at this level. Sorry, you know, feel humiliated and be angry about it and try and do something about it, but not like go and cry about it after. Like if someone nutmegs you in a game of football, you feel humiliated and you're gonna want to fucking kick that person. But yeah, it's just a remarkably big deal made about this, I thought.
Yeah,
I don't know.
There's layers that probably and again, you're more assimilated this to Spanish culture and more in tune with it than I am. But from raw eyes looking in from my perspective, I'm in complete agreement. I think it's just you know, we applaud shithousery from time to time, but then there's been other layer put in, obviously, about, you know, there's Malaga fans who are also Antequera fans. There's you know, they are within the same province, so you know, there's in essence a mutual respect maybe, and I think it does work differently that way. I think that's why you find rivalries are a lot further apart in Spain than you get in the UK, for example. So like you say, you have El Clasico between Madrid and Barcelona, whereas there's not much rivalry between Real Madrid and, you know, dare I say, Athletic or Real Valladolid, or not Real Valladolid, Vallecano, sorry, and things like that. I won't pretend to know about the politics of it. All I know is that it was just a bit of skill. I don't think at any point Kevin has gone, you know what, I am going to embarrass Antequera here. I think he's just Kevin's Kevin. He dresses in double denim and over celebrates and shit houses with shit
and stands on the football.
Stands on the football. It's what Kevin does. Like I said in the WhatsApp group, if he'd have done a Rabona or a rainbow flick here, would we be having the same conversation? I don't think.
Well, this is it. Like, I don't know if you remember, it was a couple of years ago, wasn't it, where Neymar did a rainbow flick over some, like, I don't know, when he was playing for PSG, and like, you know, the ref had a word with him. What? It's monkers. And like, okay, so I don't know. Like I mentioned, like, you know, rainbow flicks and nutmegs, and I suppose the argument is they take you past your man. Does Kevin need to stand on the ball here? But it's like, well, yeah, he got past his man. That left back might have been going, what the fuck's this stupid twat doing? And he's gone. And he does like jump off the ball and go quick. So it does sort of work. But
well, that's it. It's a touch and go basically with himself. And, you know, I don't remember Ronaldinho ever being pulled up for this, or, you know, I can't quite remember who the centre back was, but when Bergkamp, you know, flicked it round the defender.
Nikos Dabisas.
Yeah, I don't remember his career ending there and then. And him, you know, I don't remember the furore about the disrespect and things like that. So on a level, I understand. On a level, I can't. I don't even think I can say I understand it. On a level, I acknowledge it. I acknowledge that they're from the same province. There's a lot of interconnection. Maybe Chris said there's not a lot of rivalry there either. So it's not even you can badge them for saying, "Oh, look what we're doing. We're 3-0 up and taking the piss." But
I just don't think he is.
I think it's innocent in all this. And I said last night,
I literally, like you said, Kevin is Kevin. I don't think he's thinking about this. There's no like, I'm going to show you. It's
but the manager and the sporting director looking at and apologising for it. That's the other side of it for me. I think that makes you look weak. But that's just my opinion. And like you say,
me too. And like I said, it's not the view of the Geary cast. I respect Chris's opinion too. And like you said, he's maybe more in tune with this stuff than we are. And we you know, I don't get it. Like but it's not a Kevin thing with me. It's like I've said, like the Neymar thing. When JJ Okocha's done it, I love seeing that. Like, what was the point? You can't curtail these sort of moments of just instinctive sort of fun and I guess madness with Kevin here, because yeah, it is sort of unnecessary. I get that, but it does look quite funny, just a guy standing on the ball and then
well, that's it. Football's about entertainment, and
exactly.
Kevin, whether you like him or not, is an entertainer. That's his style of football. As
and
I said
also,
before,
like their goalie said, like, "Oh, I'd love to see him do that in the playoffs," and I was like, "Well, I think he would." So I don't think it's anything to do with the free.
Challenge him. Don't encourage Kevin to do that. He doesn't need license to do shit like this. But like you say, when you're 3-0 up and you've got nothing to play for, as I said in the WhatsApp, the same thing could be said about this red card. Do you know what I mean? They're 3-0 down in the 94th minute. Why do they have to go in on Kevin like that? Unless it's because they're so pissed off at him.
Well, and there you go. If we're in the playoff semi-final and Kevin is standing on the ball and pissing off a team so much, they're going to go in on him like that. Fine by me. It's like I'd rather see the players sent off. And like I think I said in the WhatsApp group yesterday, like, "Oh, we've humiliated their fullback." I was like, cool. That's what I want. That's exactly what I want my wingers to do, is to humiliate them, however they do it. And yeah, and they might look silly. Like that guy could have kicked the ball from under Kevin, he would have fallen on the floor and he'd look like a dickhead. But he's come out the other side, and yeah, I don't know. Anyway, yeah, like you said, they went down to 10 men. There was a few little brawls in the final few minutes, but yeah, a 3-0 win, the first time we've scored 3 goals for a long time, more than 1 goal, it feels like. Actually, I was a bit gutted actually, because I've never seen Malaga score 4 goals, so I was hoping that we'd get to number 4, but not to be. Obviously it was great at the end as well. There's I can't remember if it was on the podcast you and Luke done last week, where Luke mentioned, or it might have even been in our WhatsApp group, that like last week they did feel a little bit like amongst the Peñas and Malaga supporters group of like, right, let's ignore what's gone before, let's just get behind the team again. There definitely was a sense of that in the stadium. And obviously when we won 3-0, like obviously the players coming over, and there was great atmosphere there. It was really cool as well. I didn't mention it. It was really cool, all the chants about Alfonso Herrero scoring a goal. Everyone was trying to encourage him to score a goal again, which was quite funny. But yeah, let's go into our Chumbo and Misnaga, I think, Nick. Chumbo, quite difficult, I think. But I'll tell you what, I'll just give you mine straight away. Not that I thought he was bad. I'm going to go with Danny Lorenzo. Just I thought he was just a bit quiet. But I didn't think he was bad either. It's just I had to pick someone, I'd pick him.
Yeah, no, I've got the exact same one written down here. And I think it was just more, he was in the long shadow of Larrubia for this game. Again, I don't think he did anything too badly, but in comparison, and naturally you will draw parallels between the two. I get the names mixed up half the time. He just looked meeker in this game compared to David Larrubia. So, and then you see the efforts of which Ferrero and Molina put in with their assists, Canaro being, really quite solid. Roberto, obviously, the way he was. And by process of elimination, this is where we end up. So it's a very harsh Chumbo, but I think he could have stepped up the same level as some of the other players in this game if he wanted to, but he kind of just drifted through his performance.
Totally agree. I thought he played absolutely fine, but I thought everyone else around him played great. Again, I'll give my Biznaga straight away. I'm just, David Larrubia was just impeccable in this game. I'll give an honourable shout out. I could give a few really, but I want to give another honourable shout out to Carlos Buga, who I just thought was excellent. And this is where I've made my note, actually. This is where I've written David Larrubia equals Phil Foden. I've just noticed. That's what I've got in my notes. I'm guessing you've gone with David Larrubia as well. I'd be quite amazed if you haven't.
Well, if I would have done if Manu Molina. No, I was only joking. Honorable mention for Manu Molina. I think this was
sorry, Manu Molina absolutely stepped back up again this week. Really good.
That's exactly it. I think it's big for him to do that. After a few below par performances of what we're used to. So it's nice to see him back in his swing. I've got Puga written down as well. I think you'd be hard pressed, as you said earlier, Matt, to replace him going into the last game of the season in the playoffs. Ferrero, Roberto, but yeah, ultimately, David Larrubia. I very much agree with El Desmarque here. I wouldn't often give out a 10 out of 10 performance, but I think for this week, I would give him a 10 out of 10 because everything he did was just excellent.
Yeah, and he obviously hit the post as well, didn't he? He probably deserved more than that. 1 goal, 1 assist. He was excellent. That's the David Larrubia we saw very briefly at the start of the season, and who I said from day one will be our most important player this season, and has let me down in that sense. Yeah, I always thought he would be our best player this year, and hopefully he can do that over the playoff games and the game that comes in.
Fingers crossed. Like you say, it'd be good for them all to start to come back into form again. And, I don't know, maybe this has been the whole thing. Maybe just have like a nice chilled out 2 months, rest, draw some games, qualify for the playoffs gingerly.
Everybody needs to put out an Instagram statement. Get everything off their chest and
clear in the air.
Yeah. But there you go. We'll start wrapping up the episode there. We'll have the preview show on Thursday, I'm guessing. I won't be there. It is my birthday. So as much as I love you guys, I'm not spending my birthday recording a podcast.
Oh, really?
No, speaking of podcasts, I'll do a cheeky plug here. Go and listen to the latest episode of Platini Played for Kuwait, which features the fellow Giri caster Chris Marquez. We had a lovely chat about Feyenoord. Really, really good episode, actually. Really good fun. I particularly loved the Cruyff season stuff, which is a moment in football history I just think is very fascinating. So go check out that. Chris Marquez was excellent. Go listen to that. Do we need to plug anything else, Nick?
Obviously, as you mentioned, we'll have the preview for the last game of the season coming out on probably on Friday. Like I say, Castilla away. You're going to that. I know Alex is going to that.
Well, at the moment, I'm going to Madrid. That's where we're
in the area. And if you can't get into that game, you're going to go watch Taylor Swift, aren't you? So plenty of options.
I'm going to watch Real Madrid. The actual Real Madrid is the plan at the moment.
I suppose as well, obviously we've got the playoffs up and coming, so we'll still be carrying on doing previews and reviews of the playoffs as long as we are in them. We have got an exciting table of summertime content and podcasts for you planned or being planned. So just because the end of the season's happening, we are not going to go away. You're still going to be able to get your fill of GiriCast content throughout the summer months, which is lovely. And will we have a live stream this weekend? TBC. Well, let's see what our bodies are like, and but hopefully for the last proper final home game of what has been I think you put it on Facebook and Twitter before, Matt. It's actually been quite a brilliant season in terms of the experience.
I've enjoyed it. It's had its ups and downs, but mostly ups.
I really like it.
Someone should try and write a book about it.
They should, and more content to come. But other than that, thank you everybody for listening.
Yes, indeed. Thank you guys for listening. Go and subscribe, retweet, tell a friend, etc. Come and have a drink with us in Malaga if you're about, and we'll see you soon. Thank you, Nick Bell. Adios. Vamos Malaga.